llorando así de que, dile toda madre. Esta me llevaba feliz.
Okay.
Hola a todos, nuevamente gracias, buenos días. Como bien saben, les enviamos la invitación, les pedimos que nos enviaran las preguntas para agilizar todo esto, todo el proceso. Nuestra compañera Eliana nos va a ayudar, va a fungir como host, ella va a hacer las preguntas que fueron seleccionadas de todas las que nos enviamos y así es como va a funcionar la conferencia, ¿de acuerdo?
Sí. Pues según eso, pero según iba a ser en una sola, pero no.
Hola, buenos días. Gracias a todos por estar por acá. Pues voy a estar aquí presentando y sobre todo voy a estar haciendo las preguntas que ustedes mandaron a Billy Corgan. Y lo único que me piden que les avise es que ahorita va a entrar él y es cuando podemos tomar fotos al inicio y también al final va a haber otra oportunidad para tomar fotos por si todos los fotógrafos se quieren acercar para que tengan aquí cerca a Billy Corgan. Y pues bueno, empecemos. Bienvenido, Billy Corgan. Yes, please.
Just like me. I got this out of here.
Hi, Billy. Here.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very easy. This.
Thank you. Smile, Billy.
Okay? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bueno, pues,
Hello. Oh, jeez.
how are you?
I'm fine.
We're so happy to have you here.
Yeah, we're very excited.
So I have a couple questions that our friends from the press sent beforehand, and if you're willing to answer them, let's start.
All right.
So Reforma Metro wants to know that in a recent interview you said that the music industry affects your mental health. So we want to know how you deal with that.
Well, you know, if you have talent with music, it's this incredible thing because people are attracted to what you do. And then you enter the music business, and the music business is not meant for your mental health, it's meant for you to sell something. And sometimes you have to make choices between your own health and success. And as we know, of course, in the modern world, the mental health of athletes, of artists, is a lot more important than we maybe would have imagined, because rock and roll is a fantasy business, which is fine, but sometimes the fantasy and the reality don't work together. So it's very important to have a family, have good friends that you can trust. And I also think in the case of the Smashing Pumpkins for us, it's just to be ourselves and not try to feel like we have to be something that we aren't. And luckily over time, people have really accepted us for who we are.
I'm gonna skip some questions, but
Sure.
There was another one that was asking how you really have adapted to social media. So I want to ask, this is me personally, do you find that social media could harm your mental health, or how do you deal with that?
I personally don't run my social accounts anymore. I have a person who's really great at it. I have a very private account where I just talk to my friends. I'm pretty much personally off of social media. I think it's impossible to deal with the world that expects you to be perfect and at the same time deal with people who are very negative, because that's the way they establish their credibility on the internet, which has nothing to do with talent, it has to do with attention. So it's difficult because for a band you have to, of course, market and let people know what you're doing. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know, sharing pictures and stuff, that's all fine. But I think for me, I had to sort of draw the line. And I think particularly for young people, I'm not even talking about in music, just young people, I think it's a very difficult thing to navigate. I can't speak for here, but I know in America, particularly young people and young women in particular are really struggling with the internet, and suicide rates are very, very high. And so this is something that's very personal to me. So in particular, we talk a lot, I have a podcast, we talk a lot about bullying on the podcast because it's like a plague in America, people being bullied, and people, of course, using social media to bully people. So it's a very difficult subject. It's not easy to sort of address here, but certainly it's something that's important to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's another side of that, which is that you don't really need any media to communicate whatever you're feeling or whatever you're promoting. And I think that there has to be like a little upside to the whole social media thing, no?
The way I look at it is I think we just create our own media now. I still think I'm probably one of the most quotable and, in a way, interesting / controversial people in music, but not many people want to interview me anymore because I don't fit into their 10,000 agendas. So I think it's important for us just to communicate directly with fans and say, here's who we are. And I think what the media has done over time that's been disingenuous is because they get into agenda-driven narratives as opposed to just telling the truth about people. I think they miss the point of why people are interested in people. They do want to know the real people, and when you create cartoon characters, and of course pop stars are very good at leaning into the cartoon character that the media wants them to play, you create an unholy situation where young people who aspire to be something are looking at something that's completely fake and inorganic. It doesn't even have the appearance of being organic. It's just completely false. And that tells them that who they are organically will never win, which is a really bad message to send young people. So I'm proud to just be a weirdo. And I've been successful at being a weirdo. And I think this is a testament to be, look, I never in a million years would think I would go to foreign lands and play my music for people in other countries. It's a great honor. So the fact that I can be myself, have my own media and communicate. That said, I'm not afraid of the media. I don't think the media is the enemy. I understand the media is under a lot of different pressures that I don't understand. But over 30 years, I've chosen the path to be just who I am as best I can be. And not everybody respects that, but I think over time, I got a different type of respect because I refused to kind of bend into what is a bunch of bullshit, really.
You've also been like, I don't know if a safety blanket is the right term, but for us weirdos out there growing up with you and your music, so you've been kind of that for us. So thank you. So speaking of different agendas, this question is from Diario Basala. They say that as a follower of poetry and considered one of the best rock composers, Billy Corgan, what do you think about the lyrics of the urban and reggaeton genre? Not to put you on the spot or anything, but...
I just listen to country music, so I'm no expert. I will say that what I love about music and the genres that you cite, I love when I hear authentic music from people that are expressing their culture. In fact, I was talking with Jimmy Chamberlain about possibly coming back to Mexico City later this year and maybe playing some acoustic concerts. And Jimmy, with his band, plays jazz. And so we were talking about the idea of maybe Jimmy could come down with his jazz band and I would play acoustic, and then Jimmy and I would play some music together. And Jimmy was putting across the idea that maybe his jazz band would play with local musicians here. And I just love that idea because the authentic voice of culture is, to me, it's the highest honorable thing that you can do. So I respect anybody's authenticity. But that said, I don't always understand it because I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago listening to Judas Priest, you know? So that's my worldview.
That's a good answer. So what is it about Mexico that keeps bringing you back? You just had like like a residency here at Teatro Metropolitan, now the festival, now you're mentioning you're planning on coming back later this year?
Well, personally, I grew up in Chicago, which has a very huge Mexican population.
La Villita.
You live there yourself. So you understand that the Mexican culture in Chicago is very, very strong. But that said, until you come to Mexico City, you don't truly understand. I'm still seeing let's call it a one-step removed culture. You come here, you realize the heart of Mexican culture, and you walk away with great, immense respect. Secondarily, because of technology, when we look at like our streaming numbers, Mexico City is the #1 city for the Smashing Pumpkins in the whole world.
Wow.
The fans.
Wow.
Which again, not only does it blow my mind, it's a great honor, right? So for years, when James came back to the band, we kept asking the people we used to work with, why are we not going to Mexico City? Oh, it was always a business excuse. So finally we said, that's it. And then when the opportunity came up to have our own festival for the first time, they said, where do you want to start? And I said, Mexico City. Because I knew that this city would support us in taking this type of chance. And all the energy around it and the goodwill, it really touches me. It means, like, I can't even put into words how important it is.
So I appreciate your honesty, actually. Thank you. So Sol de Mexico asks, tell us a bit about the Atom Project. How was the process in order to create this rock opera?
Well, for those who don't know, we have a 33-song concept album coming out. It's being released a song at a time via my podcast. And we're about 25 songs into the 33. Everybody told me it was a terrible idea to release a rock opera, so much music, but of course, for fans of the band, they know the biggest album the band ever did was Melancholy, which was a double concept record, which people at the time in '95 told us was a terrible idea. So we don't listen to those types of things. And of course, as many people were, we were locked down in the pandemic. And so I thought, well, this is the time to do something crazy because I'm going to go out of my mind if I don't work. And so I just started working on this project, and here we are.
So that's interesting that you were mentioning Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness because, I mean, it's been 25 years and the music industry has changed so much. So how was it any different this time? I mean, people were telling you, giving you the same advice, don't do it, and you did it anyways. Was the experience different now that the music industry has changed so much, especially the way we consume music? And this is a question by Ibero.
Well, I think when the past, particularly in America, the system was you had to get on the radio and you had to get on the MTV. If you didn't get those things, you wouldn't be successful. By extension, you wanted good record reviews, but we always got terrible record reviews. In fact, I think Rolling Stone gave Melancholy 2.5 stars and said it was a piece of shit, basically. So, Rolling Stone, who this week, by the way, speaking of the media, Rolling Stone wrote an opinion piece that cancel culture is a good thing.
Okay.
Rolling Stone, by the way.
Okay.
So, anyway, the good news about today is you don't need to go through gatekeepers to get your music heard.
Yes.
And so what I would say to young artists is, nothing can stop you now. You can directly get to people with your music or your art. If you're a visual artist, if you're a playwright, if you're a poet, I think this is fantastic. The democratization of art in the world is the most fantastic thing. The gatekeepers don't like it because they want to control it and they want to make money off it. But when you come to places like this, where there are obviously economic issues, people struggle, you have to give people who have talent, you have to give them the hope that their voice can be heard. And I grew up lower middle class in America, suburbs, not the worst thing, but not the greatest thing. When I looked at the music business in 1988, it looked like a mountain that I could never climb. And like I said, the only way I could be successful back then was I had to go through people. Now artists don't have to go through people. And we're self-releasing Autumn because people kept telling me it was a bad idea.
Because people were telling you no.
Yeah, and Autumn is already the most successful album we've had in 20 years.
And this keeps happening, I believe, with so many albums through so many decades. It keeps happening that, labels don't want to release the album and then bands self-release them. And
yeah, if I could, and I'd be quick about it, but over time, the record business is like every other business, and they just look at music as like a cookie or a sausage or a can of Coke, right? And you tell people in meetings over and over again, and I've told them, you cannot treat art this way. the thing that people love about art is not the same thing they love about a can of soda pop. It just doesn't work that way. But they try to apply the same principles to that, which is why we end up with a bunch of shit music.
Yeah. Well, actually, this question was a two-part question, and then the next one was, is there any contemporary artist who's currently like a mass hit who surprises you with their work?
No, not particularly, but I think sometimes when I'm careful because I used to just be critical, and it comes across as somebody with bitterness, right? The way I look at it is, because I have a lot of friends that complain to me about music, like there's something I can do about it, right? I think a lot of the poor music in the world is because we have poor culture. And until people get on the same page and start treating each other right, in essence, the music is a reflection of poor culture. So poor culture gets poor music, right? When people are on the same page and you treat each other with love and respect, then you see these great moments in music where music rises up literally from the streets and changes the whole world and inspires people. So I think that's part of the problem I have, is I hear a lot of music that is a reflection of a sick culture, particularly in America. I'm 55 years old, and the culture in America is so sick I don't even recognize it. But it is what it is. So of course people make music for a sick culture. Now, are they a reflection of the culture or a product of the culture? I can't say. But when I listen to it, why do I want to listen to music from a sick culture? So I go back to other times to inspire me, because those people at least had hope. I don't hear hope in today's music, but that doesn't mean it's the artist's fault. They might just be reflecting what they see, right?
I do believe it's interesting nowadays that the genres are not so separated from each other, you know, that there's a lot of artists collaborating with other artists that don't necessarily have anything in common. But I do believe that some of the results are actually interesting, at least.
Yeah, I guess it's hard because, you know, when you speak in generalities, you're going to be unfair to somebody. The bifurcated cultures of music, and there's so many subgenres now, that's good, because that's like a hothouse effect. It creates new movements, new ideas. I generally tend to speak about mainstream culture because that's what I interface with, whether I want to or not. Because once you're a big band, that's what you deal with. You deal with the Rolling Stones of the world, and they kind of set the tone. Like in American journalism, the New York Times sets the tone for what people talk about in Kansas. Even if what the New York Times talks about has nothing to do with what's going on with people in Kansas.
Right.
So it's the same in the music business. So I just think the way I would say it specifically is you're seeing in the last 10 years the erosion of the gatekeepers and more direct connection between artists and people, and that's always a good thing.
And they are also defending the cancels, the New York Times, going back to that. So Reactor has another question. They want to know how you select the visual part of all of your projects and everything you do, from the artwork of each album to the clothing that you choose to wear on stage. How do you?
I don't know. It's just a feeling, you know. I look at myself sometimes in the mirror and I think, and I have little kids, you know what I mean? So I look at them like, "This is your father, you know, the vampire." It's just a feeling. It's just a feeling. I don't know how else to explain it.
But do you have like two separate closets, like Billy the father and Billy on stage, the musician?
No, what's funny is because I'm like that, my kids don't think of me any different. So they still treat me like that even when I'm a weirdo, you know what I mean? Which I think is cool. No, I don't know. It's like I've lived so long in that space that it's almost the same to me, you know what I mean? Like this and the other guy or something, right? And then with the visuals of the band, it's always been a sense of trying to convey the message of the band, which is hard to pin down. At the end of the day, over 30 years of the band, I would say the message of the band is one of just independence. It's better to be imperfect than pretend perfect.
Yes.
And so whatever is imperfect about the band, we try to represent that, and I think people pick up on that somehow. Like there's a message there that gets through to people that can actually hear it. For people that are looking for perfect, it almost turns them off, but that's a good thing. We don't want those people.
Yeah. You keep being approachable. Relatable.
I think so. I think that's one of the things that I inherited from DIY culture. Is, you know, we play clubs and you talk to people after the shows. You never want to lose that sense that what they're interested in is what you're interested in. I think it gets gross when it gets too separated.
So you keep doing that, like after Forosol, are you going to go see?
No, I'm a germaphobe now, so nobody can talk to me. Please don't touch me.
Is this after the pandemic or before the pandemic?
In fact, my friends used to make fun of me for being a germaphobe before the pandemic, and then after the pandemic, everyone's like, okay, now I understand.
Now we're all like you. So La Bestia wants to know, once you tell them a song that you hate on an album that you love, it doesn't have to be yours. It can be any song that you hate.
I'm not a hater like that.
Okay.
I don't know. Duke Ellington always said there's two types of music, good music and bad music. But one person's bad music is another person's good music, so
Yeah.
what do I know about that? I don't assume my taste is better than anybody else in this room.
It might be.
Well, I'm a snob, but that's different.
And then they also want to know if there's the song you wish you didn't write. And if so, which one is it and why?
No. Have you ever seen a picture of yourself from high school and you're wearing really bad clothes and you go, what was I thinking?
Yes.
That's the same for me with some of my songs. I think, what was I thinking? But I sort of am glad that the thing exists.
That they're there, yeah.
It's not that I would want it to be erased, but I
Yeah.
still question my sanity.
Do you keep them out of your set lists when you play?
No. I mean, no. I generally speaking like most of the songs are written, so that's not the issue.
Okay. So Ponqueando wants to know, Autumn is a conceptual album described as the sequel from Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness from 1995. How hard is it for you to create a rock opera album divided in 3 parts, considering all the new digital platforms and such little time in between each one of them apart?
I think it's a good question. A lot of people in the music business, when they were trying to talk me out of doing a 33-song album, kept saying people aren't going to listen to it. And my argument was, if everybody's on streaming services, who cares?
They don't have to pay for the album.
They don't have to pay for it, and if they don't like it, they can just click.
Right.
Think about it. You have people in the music business trying to talk me out of making music.
Yeah.
They're not trying to tell me to quit, which would be different, right? They're not telling me to retire. They're saying don't make too much music.
Yeah.
That's why. Who cares? That's my whole argument. It's like the complete opposite. It's like if everything is cheap, who cares what you do? That's freedom. I see freedom where other people see fear.
They also want to know, Ponqueando, that you wrote Autumn and Sir, like right one up, you put them out right after the other. So how much did the pandemic influence your work?
That's a good question too. Well, I was a person that talked before the pandemic for years about particularly free speech in America. And I took a lot of, excuse my French, shit for it because people in America, which is supposed to be the freest country in the world, want to argue about free speech, right? So I'm an artist 15 years ago going on interviews and saying, if you erode free speech, you lose everything. Well, we saw in the pandemic where because of medical policies, governmental decisions, including the media, people were being censored. Now, and it's now a big story in America, now they're saying, well, the virus came from a lab. For years, if you said that on social media, you would be canceled. So now they're admitting all these things which people were being canceled for. If we had free speech, nobody would have been canceled, and the narrative would have been the same. The government would have said what they said, the people would have said what they said. So I'm suspicious of any time somebody up here tells the rest of us down here how to think and feel. So it was weird to me to be talking about, because the concept, the main concept of Autumn is basically free speech. In the story of Autumn, the artist gets canceled and put into space. If anybody's interested, but it's a longer story and I don't want to waste your time. So it was weird to be on lockdown and know that the government was lying and canceling people, doctors, not me, doctors. It was hard to watch. So it influenced my thing in the sense that this is something I need to talk about. Because it's mind-blowing to me that when I was a kid, they made us read 1984 by Orwell, and now we're living in 1984, and that's a good thing. I mean, it's literally like the book in reverse, right?
So I guess we gotta change the subject to the festival, but before we get into that, this is also from Confiando. Considering the 33 new songs from his new record and new tour about to start, how hard was it for you to choose the set list for the upcoming show at the festival, The World is a Vampire?
It's not that hard. I mean, we're lucky because we have so many classic songs. So when we go to draw set lists, a lot of the set list is already there because
Right.
the fans have told us over the years what the songs that they want to hear.
But how do you incorporate these 33 new songs?
Oh, that's easy. No, that's easy because it's just, as long as the songs are good, they're always easy to incorporate. We're actually playing, I think, 2 or 3 new songs from Autumn tomorrow, or at the festival Saturday.
Any of the third part?
I don't know because we don't think like that. To us,
Okay.
it's like a big pool of songs. So
Okay.
I don't think so.
All right. So I guess the first one you already answered, which is why you chose Mexico to inaugurate the festival. You were talking about how we're the #1 country that screams the Smashing Pumpkins. They announced the festival under the premise of Welcome to a New World. What are these new elements that the old world doesn't have? This is from El Gráfico.
See this Welcome to the New World or something? I had nothing to do with that.
Okay.
So maybe it was a good slogan. I'd like to pretend I know what it means. I don't know what it means.
Honesty again, thank you.
Yeah.
They also want to know if you're thinking about doing this festival every year in Mexico, or is it going to go around the world?
We are taking it around the world. In fact, we're doing World is a Vampire in Australia in April, and maybe we're going to do some stuff in America. But I would love to have this be our home. So every year we come back and we do. And I would love to get the festival to the point where it's not always about the pumpkins.
Right.
So next year, or 2 years from now, the headliner was the biggest alternative rock band in Mexico. That would make me very proud. It doesn't have to be about the pumpkins. The idea is to create a truly alternative music festival. Because as many people know, the most famous musical festivals in America are no longer alternative festivals, even though that's how they started.
Yes.
Now they're basically pop.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to disparage the business model, but I know there are many alternative rock bands that want festivals to celebrate alternative rock artists.
So it's going to keep being
I want to, yeah. Here's the other thing, and it goes back to young people really quickly. You have to, here's what I loved about alternative music in the 70s and 80s when I first started listening. You have to give young people a vision that selling out is not the way to success. Alternative music's greatest benefit over the last 30 or 40 years is demonstrating that you can be in the Ramones, or Susie and the Banshees, or Nirvana, and you can be successful as who you are. And that goes into your gender, your sexuality, anything. You can.
So hard nowadays, no?
It's the difference between this is who I am and I'm going to share who I am with you,
Yeah.
as opposed to I'm going to let you market who I am and
Yeah.
tell me what to amplify and subtract to make me more attractive to a bigger audience.
Yeah.
I knew before I stepped out the door in 1987 that the world was not going to accept me as I was. I knew that. No one had to tell me that. And I chose a life that was very hard as an artist. I'm going to do my music my way. If you don't like it, that's fine. And trust me, the minute you're successful in the music business, that doesn't stop. People would pull me in rooms and say, if you wouldn't say this, and you would just do this, and you wouldn't be so loud, and you wouldn't be so weird, you'll sell more records, or you'll sell more tickets. The compromise doesn't stop the pressure.
Yeah.
It's very important to young people, and as a father of children, to send a message that you can be who you are, wherever you come from, whoever you love, and you can find success in the world. Just that message as a message to anybody, whatever they want to do, is so powerful.
That's interesting that you mentioned your kids, because I think that's the point where I started to consider selling out when I had my kids. No, it's kind of hard.
But that's the point, you see, and again,
Yeah.
what message are you sending them,
Yeah.
right?
You're making me want to quit my job.
I don't know what your job is, but you're good at this.
Thank you. So I guess, well, they wanted to know, we have to talk now about wrestling, but there was a question right here that I do want to, because you were mentioning that you would like to incorporate more Mexican alternative bands to the festival.
Yes.
How are you gonna pick those bands? Someone was asking.
Well, you find people in the local culture that tell you, we have, is it The Warning, right? It's The Warning, right? The Warning's on the bill.
Yeah.
I mean, As soon as I saw, I got the list of bands, and as soon as I said they were one of the bands that were being considered, I said that band's got to be on the bill.
Yeah.
But I knew who they were. But there might be other great bands like that I don't know. So, you know,
Yes.
I'm a soccer dad. I'm not on people's playlists. You know what I mean? I need other people to tell me who are great, and I can listen with my own ears. But I already knew who the Warning were.
Right.
So when I saw they were on the list of bands that were being considered, I said they have to be on the
They have,
festival.
yeah, they're doing so good. We have to go to wrestling now, and I want to introduce, quiero presentar a José Manuel Guillén, que es la voz oficial de la AAA. Está por aquí, estás por aquí, hola. José Manuel, bienvenido. Está también con nosotros Kerry Morton de la NWA y el vampiro canadiense también de la AAA, por si quieren pasar de una vez. Now we're getting into wrestling.
Gracias, Roju. Aquí están dos figuras que estarán dentro de este evento de World is a Vampire, representando a Lucha Libre AAA, toda una leyenda en la lucha libre, el vampiro canadiense. Y también el actual World Junior Heavyweight Champion, Kerry Morton. Bienvenido a México. Como parte de este evento en donde también habrá lucha libre en The World is a Vampire.
Así es. So we have now wrestling questions for you, Billy. Did your involvement with pro wrestling change your point of view about how you perform at your shows? This is from Reforma.
Well, what pro wrestling did was it helped me understand what I was trying to do in the 90s that I didn't have a name for.
Okay.
Because people didn't understand the 90s where I would be provocative and say things that people didn't like. And eventually when I got into wrestling in the late 90s, I was like just being a heel. I was creating energy by going against the grain. So once I understood that, then it was easy.
And you decided to bring them together.
Well, now I'm a baby face, right? I'm not a El Rudo, right? I'm a good guy now.
That was actually the next question from Diario Pásala. Are you rude or are you a baby face?
Inside I'm a heel, but outside I'm a baby face.
Okay. Both then. So Diario Pásala also wants to know, what do you like about Mexican wrestling in particular?
I love the tradition, and I love the tradition that AAA brings to the table. This is what's so exciting, is the NWA represents traditional American wrestling, and AAA represents traditional Mexican wrestling. So we're going to see this clash of these two great traditions, but I love the tradition.
How did you discover, how did you get into Mexican wrestling?
Well, growing up in Chicago, you know, the luchas were always on television. But I didn't have any context for the cultural aspect of Lucha Libre, so for me it was like this strange alien, like what are they doing and why? And of course the commentary would always be in Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish, so I didn't know what was happening. But it was later when I got into professional wrestling I started to understand the great superstars and the tradition, and of course even the great superstars that from Mexico that worked in the NWA, which is the company I now own. So that intersection of traditions is so fantastic. It's great to be a part of it now and not just to be on the outside looking in.
So, Radio Mexiquense wants to know, who are your favorite fighters in Mexico and in the USA?
Well, we have one right here.
Very humble.
Now, he and I met way back in the day, but he doesn't remember.
How did you meet? I want to know now. How did you meet?
Brother,
I think in an ECW show, but... So now he's gonna bump me, huh?
I'm scared. So you remember him, but he doesn't remember you.
It's okay, it's okay.
Does that happen?
But
often?
tomorrow, when my NWA wrestlers face him in the ring, as we say, there will be a receipt.
Does that happen to you often? I don't think so, no?
No.
Okay. How do you combine both your careers as a musician and as a wrestling promoter? This is from La Crónica de
I
Hoy.
work 120 hours a week.
Oh my God, and your kids?
And my kids. My kids help me with the wrestling. So my kids know the wrestlers. And no, it's constant work. But I love it. It's fantastic. And the fact that we're here in Mexico City with the NWA and with AAA and this rock festival, it's like a dream come true, right?
They want to know, Indie Rocks wants to know if you have plans, future plans to make an alliance with AAA.
We were just talking about it in the back. I would love nothing more to continue to do business with AAA. I love AAA, great company, great people, fantastic.
What would be your character's name if you were a fighter?
Vampiros.
This is from Indie Rocks.
Just a question.
Vampiro 2.
Vampiro's already taken though.
Vampiro 2. El hijo de vampiro.
Vampire number 2. I'll be Vampiro 2.
Ah, él acaba de decir Vampiro 2.
Vampiro de Chicago.
But I gotta wear a mask.
Yes, yes.
I gotta wear a mask. I gotta go in the tradition.
So there was another question, one last question that got sent very last minute, so I don't remember who sent it, but they say that you've mentioned in the past that La Parca is one of your favorites, and they want to know if you're familiar with his story.
A little bit. There was a very controversial thing I did years ago where I was playing in Mexico City, and I had La Parca come out with some other wrestlers, and we did it as a fun thing, but we stopped the concert and people got very mad at me that we stopped the concert. And the rock journalists were like, how can you bring wrestling into rock and roll, and what are you doing? They were disgusted with me. They were literally angry at me. But La Parca, after the event, gave me one of his masks as a sign of respect, which is in my office at home.
Okay.
So then after that, I knew who he was, of course, but I know a lot more about his story.
Okay.
So,
Well,
but for me, a big honor to have done that with him, and to have that from him is a big sign of respect, obviously.
so it seems like we've come a long way since, having your audience being mad at you because you brought
No, they're still mad at me, trust me.
But now you have the whole festival around
No.
luchas and rock.
Just to be indulgent for a second, when I first started in professional wrestling 10 years ago, and then when I bought the NWA 5 years ago, my interest in professional wrestling was treated by the rock community as like this silly thing that I was doing. Now they don't think so silly anymore. They see what we're doing here. They see the respect I'm bringing to professional wrestling and how I'm helping bring professional wrestling places it's never been. That's changing now. So it means a lot to me because of why would I spend all that time? What people need to understand is wrestling is one of the last rebellious things left in the world that isn't controlled by corporate people at the top. Wrestling is more rock and roll many times than rock and roll is.
Yeah.
And wrestling should get the respect for still being of the people. So that's what I love about wrestling, and no one's going to take that away from me.
I've never thought of it that way, and you're actually
thank you.
right. It's more punk rock than.
It's very punk rock.
Yeah.
It's very punk rock.
Yeah.
Vampiro 2 right here.
So I think that's
Let's
all
talk,
the
I gotta talk
questions.
to these great talents.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys wanna talk about something else, feel free. Because we're done with questions. El clima, no.
No one's talking?
¿Hay algunas preguntas o no?
Acabamos ya con las preguntas. pero-
Ah, ok.
Para el vampiro, pregunta para el vampiro.
No puedo. Es rebelión y punk rock. ¿Cuál es tu pregunta, perdón? Mande.
Tú amas la música.
Así es.
Eres súper rockero.
Ajá.
¿Qué onda contigo y los Smashing Pumpkins?
Yo era músico mucho antes que yo era luchador, al principio. La música alternativa. Yo estaba presente en Montreal y Nueva York a finales de los 70s, principios de los 80s, cuando nací punk rock, hip hop, new wave, hardcore, cuando todo era muy unido. Para estar en la presencia de ustedes, en un lugar que es mi lugar, Vampiro está hecho, nací en la Ciudad de México, en Colonia de los Doctores, de hecho, a tener a alguien con la visión, con su prestigio. Obviamente sabemos muy bien quiénes son los Smashing Pumpkins y la importancia de la música y su historia. Pero tener a alguien con esta visión, con esta actitud, con el respeto por ambas industrias, con su afición, es muy difícil tener a alguien que entiende la conexión, porque la conexión no son los artistas, es la afición que ocupa este tipo de rebeldía o escape. Entonces, yo estoy nervioso, después de 40 años de pelear, no me da nervios, pero para estar enfrente la gente que mueve la ficha, que son la afición de las dos industrias este sábado, es impactante. A tener AAA, algo, lucha libre mexicana, enfrente del mundo con un artista como él. ¿Qué te puedo decir? Es si yo tengo que morir en el ring para que el mundo entienda que es lucha libre, lo hago el sábado con gusto, porque es nuestra oportunidad a gritar. Ustedes nos copian, te dije, y ahora ya estás viendo de dónde viene la magia de la lucha libre. Se llama AAA, hecho en México, por el mundo.
He said nice things.
I put you over like a motherfucker.
I speak enough Spanish now to know. Thank you very much.
Bueno, me dicen que después de todo sí vamos a tomar preguntas abiertas. We're going to take some questions.
Oh, great.
You want,
Please.
you want to...
Yeah, but I want you to, because originally Kerry wasn't going to be here, and through a different schedule he was able to come. So we're very excited he's going to be defending his title tomorrow. A title his father held as well. For those who don't know, Kerry Morton's father is Ricky Morton, the great legend from Rock and Roll Express, and I think your dad held that belt 7 times.
That's correct. Absolutely. Yes.
Into the mic.
That's absolutely correct. 7 times. World Junior Heavyweight Championship for the National Wrestling Alliance, which is a huge opportunity, and I'm very grateful to now hold the championship that my dad once held. And not only hold this championship, but defend this championship worldwide. I won this within the United States, and now I'm here in Mexico defending this belt, and hopefully going home with this belt as well. Being the world champion comes with lots of etiquette and prestige. And with that said, I'm proud to represent the National Wrestling Alliance, being the World Junior Heavyweight Champion, and performing in front of the great crew here in Mexico.
Nice, we're happy to have you here. Is there going to be a crossover between AAA and NWA?
You mean tomorrow or the future?
Yeah, tomorrow. Well, Saturday.
Every match is AAA versus
Okay,
NWA.
okay.
Every match.
Nice.
So we'll see who's the stronger company.
This is actually, now we're going to be,
Yeah.
fighting against each other.
That's what we want. We want the best versus the best. That's what the fans deserve. We want the best music, we want the best wrestling, this is the best. That's what we want for this festival. That's why I want to come back every year.
Yeah.
Everybody will know every time we come, hopefully. Of course, we can't read the future, but if we come back every year, everybody in Mexico City know we're going to bring the best.
Nice.
And you do know when Kerry Morton's in that ring, he is one of the best. And I'm just stating the facts. Kerry Morton's one of the best junior heavyweight champions in the world. So when you see me defend this championship, you know you're going to get your money's worth. So fair enough on that.
He is immortal. He is immortal. Okay, any questions? Let's talk.
Sí, hay una pregunta, vamos a tomarla allá atrás, nada más para decirle al público que habrá, no solamente será esa lucha de campeonato, que será el campeonato Junior Heavyweight que tiene Ricky Morton contra Jack Cartwheel, que es de AAA, y contra Sal de Pal, que es de la NWA. Vampiro estará haciendo equipo con Blue Demon Jr. para enfrentarse a la Rebelión, los campeones de parejas, campeones mundiales de parejas, uno mexicano, uno puertorriqueño, Bestia 666 y Mecha Wolf serán los hombres que estarán enfrentando a Vampiro y también a Blue Demon Jr. Y la lucha estelar será por el campeonato mundial de peso completo de la NWA, representando a AAA Daga en contra de Tyrus. That's going to be our main event. Esa será nuestra lucha estelar por el campeonato mundial de la NWA. Vampiro, vas por el campeonato de parejas de la NWA. Has tenido rivalidad con la Rebelión. ¿Cómo te sientes? Ya dijiste de estar en el Foro Sol, pero ¿cómo te sientes luchando por un campeonato?
Listo. Bueno, sí, listo. Estoy preparando, entrenando y emocionado porque si logramos tener este campeonato en México, significa mucho porque los iniciales de NWA tienen mucha historia en nuestra industria y para tener este campeonato en AAA va a ser impactante. Entonces, yo lo hago bien, hermano, pero no quiero que se cabrona porque lo voy a quitar sus campeonatos y no hay nada que pueda hacer.
I'm pretty sure too in that match, Damien 666 will be in the corner for his son.
Damián 666 va a estar presente con su hijo en esa función, el legendario Damián 666.
Y es la parte importante, que el mundo va a ver una lucha de mucha calidad. Y para enfrentar campeones es de nervios, es de respeto y afuera de broma, estoy como tenso, nervioso, tengo como náuseas y esto significa que alguien va a sufrir un sábado y yo estoy muy listo, ya quiero pegar a alguien en este momento, pero no lo voy a hacer. A mí. Estoy emocionado, estoy sudando porque la afición de México, cuando hay un campeonato y tenemos chance de dejar estos campeonatos aquí, la banda se responde. ¿Y tú crees que yo no voy a rifar, no, manos? Por eso estoy, papá, ya sabes. Y puedes escuchar Vampiro todos los días en Grito Radio, 9 a 11 p.m., lunes y viernes.
Tenemos una pregunta por allá atrás.
Gracias, mi querido Guillén. Buenas tardes, buenos días a todos. ¿Este ejercicio se puede replicar en una gira de Smashing Pumpkins? Well, do you think this kind of spectacle? Would you reply in a world tour from your band?
Are you planning on taking this model with wrestling and rock to other, to like a Smashing Pumpkins tour?
Yeah, like I said, we're already doing it in Australia in April, and we're hoping to do it in America. Now, the idea is to take it all over the world. And the great thing is because I'm basically in control of what happens. I made wrestling a key part of the festival from the beginning. And this is the great way to start it because we have two great companies facing off of each other. So anybody who's skeptical in the music business isn't going to be skeptical afterwards because it's also another way to bring in fans who wouldn't come.
Right. See music.
The crossover of potential between wrestling and rock and roll is very, very interesting.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and I don't mean this as criticism, but where people have tried to do it in the past is it's hard to have credibility in both worlds, to bring the best of the best from both worlds. Because I've been in wrestling now for 10 years, I can bring the best of the best from wrestling and obviously from rock and roll. So I'm maybe the only person in the world who can do this.
Yes.
I'm not saying WWE couldn't do their own version, but WWE is in the rock and roll business. I am.
They're not in the Smashing Pumpkins.
Well, that too.
¿Tienen alguna otra pregunta? A ver si quieres.
Hi Billy, this is Fran from La Bestia. So we were on the way to this press conference listening to songs from Atom and also songs from the old records, and they sound so different, and we were talking to each other, so they sound so different. What does Billy think of listening to his own records with such a different sound?
Sure.
Like from the 90s, and now they sound like, well, we always say this is not in a bad way, but we say that new records sound like plastic and old records sound like they have like more soul. So what do you think about that when you listen to your new record?
The young man up here is criticizing me.
Not allowed on
He's
Saturday.
saying my new music sounds plastic and my old music doesn't sound like plastic. I think, first of all, I respect your opinion, but I think what people have a hard time understanding is that a musician is like an instrument. You vibrate to the world around you. So the world of 1992 was very organic. It was very much in the clubs. And we played for years until we figured out who we were. Look at the world you live in now. Is that an organic world? I can make organic music all day. If you want me to make music just for you that reminds you of 1992, you pay me $1 million, I'll do it for you. And to your critique, this is the most successful the Smashing Pumpkins has been since the late 90s. So maybe we're not making music for you, but we're making music for young people who understand the sound of the street. So it is what it is, but always from the heart.
Vamos a tomar un par de preguntas, pero aprovechando que están aquí los luchadores de medios que vengan a cubrir la lucha libre, entonces vamos a tomar un par de preguntas. Allá atrás, por favor, ¿cuál es la...?
Para el vampiro, ¿qué significa que, o qué tan complicado es como luchadores que empresas como la NWA o la AAA compiten por la atención de los aficionados contra otras empresas que casi acaparan todo el mercado como lo es la WWE, sobre todo en las transmisiones en vivo? ¿Cómo hacer que la gente se acerque y también la gente rockera que va a estar en el festival? Porque muchos solo quieren ir a ver a las bandas y no poner atención en lo que va a pasar en el ring.
Ok, Kerry, voy a ver si más o menos entendí la pregunta. What's the big difference between NWA to have all the fans and NWA, you know, the live events and all the other stuff? How's different NWA with the WWE that so many people recognize?
Sure. So the NWA is based on the foundation of professional wrestling within the United States. The NWA has been around for almost 75 years, coming up in August, which is a huge tradition of professional wrestling. And that being said, we have a huge variety of professional wrestlers, from lucha libre to Japanese to United States wrestlers. The women's division is so diverse. And that's something that we really pride ourselves in, especially when we're going against other companies such as WWE, All Elite Wrestling, Ring of Honor. Yes, they have great talent too, but we have something that they don't have, and that's just the diversity within our programs of how good and the foundation and the locker room leaders, such as Austin Idol as a name that comes to mind, Dr. Tom Pritchard, my father, Ricky Morton. Locker room leaders that really that encourage our wrestlers to go out there and break the boundaries and break the standards and make a name for yourself, get yourself over in professional wrestling is what they would say. And that's something that we pride ourselves in, especially Billy here as the boss gives us creative freedom. And that's something that as wrestlers we couldn't be more grateful enough for because it explores us and it allows us to explore and find out who we are inside the wrestling ring. As I mentioned before, yes, everyone can claim they're the best professional wrestler in the world, but are they? Can they genuinely back it up? Can they get in that ring and go 35 minutes toe-to-toe and not have a boring match and have an outstanding professional wrestling match? That's something I pride myself in. Because if I'm going to call myself one of the best junior heavyweight champions of current junior times, then sure enough, then I want to prove that. And so I think with programs such as WWE, All Elite Wrestling, is those wrestlers don't get the chance to go out there and prove it enough. There's too many people in the locker room. They're not getting enough time to share that TV time. And Billy makes sure he prides us in getting our TV time and showcasing our talents.
Tenemos...
Para entender bien, tú preguntaste cómo se sentimos como luchadores con un nuevo público. ¿Ese es más o menos?
También, o sea, era dos. Ahora, ¿qué sientes de estar en este festival de música que la mayoría de la gente solo va a ver a las bandas y a veces no le pone tanta atención a la lucha? Y en este festival se está como...
Estamos conscientes de, como Billy said, como eso es algo nuevo y es una oportunidad a tener dos públicos, dos industrias mostrando quiénes somos juntos, unidos, con un público en específico. Sabemos muy bien que la gente de videojuegos y rock, la mayoría son fans de lucha. Yo vengo de ahí, pues ahí yo puedo hablar de gente como yo. Todos tenemos esta playera de los Misfits. Entonces, nosotros sabemos que no podemos luchar por una hora, tenemos que ir, como él dijo, esta es la última versión de punk rock en muchas maneras, con un impacto muy fuerte, una lucha muy brusco, con mucha energía, para mostrar la atención de los fans. Esta es lucha libre, ok. Entonces, sabemos que es una oportunidad a ganar nuevo terreno, es eso.
Tenemos tiempo para una última pregunta, entonces, a ver. De lucha, sobre lucha, sí. ¿Quién tiene pregunta de lucha? ¿Allá?
Bueno, ok,
¿Te parece? Órale, acá,
bueno.
Camisa de mezclilla.
México se ha convertido en un escenario importantísimo para la música, pero la lucha libre es parte de la cultura mexicana. Este tipo de festivales se podría convertir año con año en un festival que podamos ver cada año en el foro de género urbano.
He wants to know if this could happen each year, NWA against AAA here at Foro Sol.
Well, we'll see tomorrow. Saturday. Saturday. I would love it. I love being in business with AAA, so I'm all for it. But you know, we're two different companies with two different things we have to accomplish. And but yeah, I would love to make it a tradition, and if we could make it a tradition here at the festival, it would be even better.
Billy,
¿piensas documentar todo el festival para futuras ediciones y poderlas tener en video o poderlas tener en CD?
Are you gonna film the festival so that it stays, or you put it out as a DVD, or you know?
I don't think there's any plans at the moment to film the festival. I believe we are filming the wrestling matches for air. And so we're hoping to share that not only with AAA programming, but with NWA programming. So.
Hola.
Ya, nada
Bueno.
más, para última sorpresa y para terminar con esta conferencia de prensa, tenemos un invitado más de AAA que estará en la sesión de fotografías para terminar con la conferencia. Vamos a darle la bienvenida al dragón de Corazón de Oro, que tendrá también una oportunidad muy grande de estar en este evento. La bienvenida y el aplauso, por favor, para Octagon Junior. Bienvenido Octagon Junior, aquí está como parte del elenco de AAA y con esto, Reclu, terminamos la conferencia de prensa. Muchas gracias a todos los medios por haber asistido.
Gracias.
Al centro, por favor, al centro.
No se paren, no se paren. Háganse más para atrás.
¿Estoy bien?
Más para acá, por favor, al centro.